very much for now. The Executive is running out of time to agree a budget that will see the Assembly through to the election in 2016. Sinn Féin has been blamed for delaying discussions on the matter and has re-emphasised its opposition to introducing welfare reform here. The Finance Minister, Simon Hamilton, told me on The View on Thursday that he tried and failed to raise the matter at that day's Executive meeting.
I wanted the issue at least to discuss, and I think that was welcomed by other executive members. I think there was quite a few who said that whilst they maybe didn't agree with everything that I put in the paper, they did at least respect that there was a need to have a proper, sensible, adult conversation about what is an incredibly serious issue. What was contained within the paper was exactly what I outlined to the Deputy First Minister in a meeting that I had with him and the First Minister a fortnight ago. It was what was contained within a briefing that was given by officials from my department to members of the Executive last Thursday. So this is information that the Deputy First Minister and everybody else in Sinn Féin who are in the Executive have had from a fortnight ago.
We needed to have a proper, mature discussion amongst Executive Ministers. As Simon has said, we had a briefing a week ago. It was clear the general area where things had to be dealt with, but we simply couldn't get agreement around the table to have that discussion properly. And that bit of the fault is almost entirely with Sinn Féin, because it's clear that other parties were prepared to discuss it.
The Alliance leader David Ford and the DUP's Simon Hamilton will join me now, Sinn Féin's Education Minister John O'Dowd. John O'Dowd, why didn't Sinn Féin support a proper discussion of Simon Hamilton's paper at last Thursday's Executive meeting?
We had a paper delivered to us at 3 o'clock on Wednesday which contained £200 million of cuts to public services for debate and decision at 3 o'clock on Thursday. Now, I think that is unacceptable. I think it would be irresponsible of any politician to sit down and make decisions based on a 24-hour period on a paper that, if it does merit discussion, then should have been with the political parties at least a week beforehand.
Well, you've just heard Simon Hamilton say that not a single senior member of Sinn Féin didn't know about that 2 weeks ago because he personally briefed the Deputy First Minister.
Well, there's one thing of being briefed on possible cuts to services and what those broader outlines are, but when you receive an executive paper, a formal document which you have to make a decision on, then you have to take time to discuss it. And immediately when I received the document, I was somewhat shocked and surprised to find that there was a bid for £10 million from my own department. I have not made a bid for £10 million from my own department. I may make a bid. I may make a bid for £27 million. Yeah. I may not make any bid at all.
But the point is, discuss it. Talk about it. The other parties were all up for discussing it on Thursday's at Thursday's meeting, except for Sinn Féin.
There was a discussion at the Executive. What was sought from the other parties was a decision, and we refused to make a decision on such a serious matter based on that we had 24 hours to analyse it. And
well, also discussed under any other business. It wasn't formally tabled. It wasn't a formal discussion.
But Mark, you must understand, when I receive a document which has a bid on it from my own department, which I haven't made, the first thing that I ask myself is, well, if this bid has been made on behalf of my department and I haven't made it, the other ministers sitting around the table, how valid are those sums attributed to their departments? So all those figures in that document deserve to be drilled down into further
so talk about
and discussed. We did discuss it.
Talk about it properly. Talk about it in detail.
And it's also worth noting that a fortnight ago, a DUP health minister told us that he required £140 million or else the health service was going to collapse. We're now told they need £60 million. So in the space of a fortnight, that number changed by £80 million. So that proves that you shouldn't rush into these decisions.
Well, you're certainly not going to be found guilty of rushing into it. That's for sure. It's been going on for months and you don't seem to want to talk about it.
And
your critics say you're sticking your head in the sand and hoping it's going to go away.
No, we're not. We're actually the party who's made a call for the welfare bill to be brought onto the floor of the Assembly, for it to be debated clause by clause, for MLAs to have their say on it, for civic society to have their say on it, and for citizens to have their say on it. So the first duty, I think, of the new DSD Minister, Mervyn Storey, is to bring the welfare bill onto the floor of the Assembly and let it go through procedure.
And you also need to resolve issues in the October monitoring round, and you need to agree a budget for 2015-16 as soon as possible. Otherwise, you're going to be in all sorts of default as far as the Treasury is concerned, and you'll not be able to provide this critical letter of comfort. It is pretty clear when you talk to Simon Hamilton that he is looking at £200 million of cuts in the next financial year. How are you going to address that issue?
Well, the first people we should be seeking to give comfort to is the citizens we represent. There seems to be a misfocus from some of the political parties who are more concerned about the needs of civil servants in the Treasury than they are about the citizens they were elected to serve.
But we're all going to be affected by the £200 million in cuts.
That is our first primary concern, the citizens who elect us. In relation to who's going to be affected, 66,000 people who are currently on benefits and can't work because of illness or disability will see a £3,500 cut to their welfare payments if welfare cuts are introduced. 1 in 3 people on personal independence payments will see a cut to their finances as well. Every family sitting watching this television now who are on family tax credits or working tax credits will face a cut as a result of welfare cuts.
Lots of people are going to be affected if you don't deal with the issue as well. I mean, the library service is now letting people on temporary contracts go. We know that a scheme has now been put in place, or is being put in place, to allow civil servants to take redundancy. Lots of people, not necessarily directly affected by welfare reform changes, will also be affected if you don't discuss the issue and resolve it.
At no stage have we said we will not discuss it, but we will not discuss it in a 24-hour framework and present it with a document which I already know there's a serious flaw in. So if there's a flaw in the document, it deserves to be analysed further. We will analyse not only the figures which are attributable to our departments, but the figures which are attributable to other departments, and then we will make a decision upon it. OK, and what about those people who are concerned, who work for departments or who are in receipt of funding from other government departments, who, if your budget in education and the health budget are protected, would be looking at the eye-watering figure of 14% of cuts in the next financial year? Well, then does that not merit my argument that we have to take this matter and take time to consider all the implications of the October monitoring paper? But you seem to be very keen on the time aspect of it, but not actually the discussion aspect of it. If you were serious about discussing it, you would have talked about it on Thursday at the executive meeting. I mean, David Ford, the Alliance Party leader, who's also the Justice Minister, said, right, this is a major problem. We've got a hole in our budget. Let's clear our diaries and deal with it on Friday and Saturday. They weren't looking at a discussion. Other parties agreed. Sinn Féin wasn't interested. No, the other parties didn't agree to that. The other parties are looking at a decision. I have no difficulty with discussion, and we will reach a decision upon it, but it has to be based on actual figures attributable to each department, and they have to be scrutinised, and the evidence to back it up has to be available. When is Sinn Féin going to be ready to discuss this serious issue? Is it a serious issue? It is a serious issue. Of course, when are you going to be ready to talk about it? We will discuss it throughout the week. When we're ready to make a decision on it, we'll make a decision on it. And you didn't have anything meaningful to say, having received that briefing from Simon Hamilton 2 weeks ago, you felt bounced into it on Thursday? Well, as I say, the actual document for decision arrived at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, for decision at 3 o'clock on Thursday. Do you think that your department and the health department should be ring-fenced? Do you think that you should be given special treatment and that other departments have to take, therefore, by definition, bigger cuts in future? Well, I as a person, won't receive any special treatment. But in terms of the services... About you personally, yes, but the services I deliver in terms of education, which are the core of any society, I think should be protected. Right. Because if we are... more important than other arms of government. But let's see the implications of a good education system or a bad education system. If we continue to cut services in education, we will see greater levels of educational underattainment. That leads to young people ending up in the justice system. That leads to people being unemployed, and that leads to more pressure being on the health service. So let's get our education system right. Let's continue to invest in our education system, and we can build a better society. Okay, but and relieve some of the pressure. If I had Danny Kennedy sitting in that seat, I imagine he would say to me, we need to protect our roads infrastructure. We need to make sure that we can attract inward investment. If Arlene Foster was there, she'd be saying we need to promote tourism. Yeah. I can't deal with 14% cuts. Let's look at where the majority and the reason why the majority of the cuts are taking place. We focus on welfare cuts. But the reason why the majority of the cuts are being implemented is because our block grant continues to diminish. In 2009-10, our block grant was £10 billion. Right. 14-15, our block grant is £10 billion. And it is forecast by 2020 that the average spend per population will fall by £1,000. So how can the executive continue to function in that manner if we have an economic policy being driven upon us by the Conservative government, which is diminishing public spending year upon year? Simon Hamilton made it very clear in his interview on The View on Thursday night that the reason this is happening is because Martin McGuinness is not a free agent and is not able to actually deal with these issues. He would like to resolve welfare reform, according to Simon Hamilton, but his strings are being pulled by Gerry Adams and others in Dublin. Is that true? You mean that Gerry Adams is being the leader of the party? There's no secret. I'm just telling you what Simon Hamilton said. I'm surprised that it comes as news to Simon Hamilton. Gerry Adams is the leader of Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin is led by Gerry Adams, Martin McGuinness and Ard Corley. Martin McGuinness is the Deputy First Minister in Northern Ireland. Which is representative of all the people of Ireland and our representatives. Martin McGuinness, there's no secret as to who Martin McGuinness is answerable to. Martin McGuinness is Deputy First Minister and carries out that function very, very well.
Right.
But the leader of the party is Gerry Adams.
So Gerry Adams is indeed pulling his strings. That's quite right. Then Simon Hamilton's right when he said that.
No. I'm not going to
Well,
use
that is
that
what you've
terminology.
just said.
No, that's not the terminology I'm using.
Well, you've just said that Gerry Adams is the leader of the party.
Yeah, but that's not the same.
So he
as pulling
tells Martin
strings.
McGuinness what to do.
No, there is a collective leadership. We have a collective
Well, is
leadership.
it collective or is it Gerry Adams? Which? They can't be
He's
both.
the ultimate leader. But where's the
He is
surprise?
the ultimate
in that?
leader.
Where's the surprise in that?
He's the ultimate leader. So he tells Martin McGuinness. So if that scenario was right, in fact, that ties in exactly with what you're saying. Martin McGuinness may have wanted to do a deal on welfare reform and may have been told you can't do that, Martin, by Gerry Adams in Dublin.
No, that did not happen. It did not happen. Martin McGuinness understands the consequences of welfare cuts and what
Mm.
impact that will have on our society. I've already given you the shocking figures. 66,000 people who are on disability and can't work are going to see their benefits cut by £3,500 a year.
All right.
Martin McGuinness understands that.
OK, we will leave it there.